listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. I am Geoff Schwartz, 8 years National Football League alongside Marty, Hurney, 30 years NFL front offices. As usual, we're presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. And welcome to the start of the NFL league year. By the time we're done recording this, Marty, the league year, well, the tampering period for the league year will have begun. The league year officially begins in about 48 hours, but deals will be signed. Things are happening. Trades are happening, Marty. Transactions all around. And we're here to cover them. Do you feel a little something right now, Marty? You've been in these war rooms, doing these free agent deals, doing these trades. We're going to get a bunch of announcements while we're even doing the show about transactions. We'll cover the most important ones for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, my feelings don't change. I still feel nauseous today, and I don't have anything to do with it. So it's it's a hard time, man. This is a rough week. I think that there was as much, or if not, maybe a little more action as far as trades and stuff leading up to this, and I like that. Free agency is just so tough, Geoff, because you're dealing with the agent. You really don't know what the players got out there. And you're just kind of get into bidding wars sometimes, which are not good. You have to show restraint. So it's a really hard week for general managers to try to balance all of this. But I do think that the teams that were aggressive and started making a lot of trades, I like that route better.
So let's start talking about transactions, Marty, because, again, as of right now, no one has officially signed with anyone yet, big names at least. Well, by the end of the show, maybe we'll get some more out there. The legal tampering period does start after the show, and I have some fun stories to share about that. I'm sure you do as well. We'll do that later in the show. But heading into free agency, a bunch of trades have been announced. None of them, by the way, can be officially completed till the new league year begins. And some of these deals have extensions with them as well, so we'll talk about all those. I think the most impactful one that might matter the most to this season is the trade the Rams and the Chiefs made. The Rams acquired cornerback Trent McDuffie that made him the highest paid corner in NFL history. The Chiefs got the 29th pick overall. I remember the Rams have the 13th pick too, so they had an extra first round pick to trade here. They got a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, and a 3rd round pick next season. For whatever reason, Marty, the Chiefs just don't want to resign their own players. They don't do it very often under Andy Reid. They don't really do it for the secondary, and they decided to get rid of McDuffie. But more importantly, Marty, the Rams had a need, and that was a secondary. We saw last season they could not hold leads late in games. They couldn't do it in the most important games of the season, and they gave up a ton of yards to a lot of good offenses. And a lot of that was primarily because they had no secondary players that were impactful. Marty, they got one now. I love this trade for the Rams because they still have their other first-round pick. So you get a Pro Bowl, all-pro player for the 29th pick, which you were not probably drafting. So I like this in sort of a win-now mode for the Rams. What do you think about this trade?
I like both sides, and I do like the Rams because, listen, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I wouldn't have liked this trade, but this is what the Rams do. They constantly do this. They trade draft picks for good veteran players, and they basically went and did it. Won the Super Bowl 21 season, 22 Super Bowl, then kind of reset in 23. But they have been able to manage this way of trading draft picks and getting a key veteran player. So I really like it for them. And, they traded the 1st, they traded the 5th and the 6th this year, and they traded the 3rd and 27. There were, I read something where it said the Giants were interested as well, but they didn't want to trade more than a 1st. And I thought that for a new regime with John Harbaugh, Joe Shane, general manager, I thought they showed very good restraint if that was their limit to stay into it, because that is one of the big keys to being successful in free agency. And by that, I mean just being able to sustain year to year. You might lose some guys by holding your ground, but I think that was a good sign for them. But I like this. I like this deal on both sides, Geoff. I think the Rams obviously think they have a very good shot to make a run to win the Super Bowl this coming year. And Trent McDuffie is not only now the highest paid corner in the league, but he might be the best, or at least one of the top 5. So they saved $13.6 million doing that. And obviously they will use it. I think they'll probably use it for offensive talent. But this is one of the few trades I really like both sides.
So from the Chiefs' perspective here, Marty, I understand this for really two reasons. One is that the Chiefs are not a Trent McDuffie away from winning a Super Bowl. They have a lot of other issues on their roster,
right.
And the extra first-round pick allows them to potentially draft another impactful player. Right now, the rumors are they're going after Kenneth Walker, a running back, because the running back room is the worst in the NFL. There are college running back rooms, Notre Dame, that's better than the Kansas City Chiefs right now, right? Like. It's bad. The wide receivers right now in Kansas City, your number one probably will be suspended again this season. Your number two is 185 pounds. All right, you need another wide receiver. So at pick 29, you can use that pick or pick 9, get Tate someone else. And really, the thing that makes this easy to do for Kansas City is that their defensive staff, Spagnuolo, Merritt, have done a great job over the years of developing cornerbacks. They just have a pipeline, man. Like, they just keep getting these young guys in. And look, they're not as good as McDuffie, but if you can, as a whole, fill that void with extra players you've drafted, it makes sense for Kansas City. And so I liked it for both sides, which I think is rare for NFL trade.
Yeah, it really is. And, you mentioned the running back. That's going to be interesting. I got a guy. I love Tyler Algiers from Atlanta, out of BYU, that is a free agent. I think he's a really good back, and I think he's a starting level back. But, yeah, both these things. I mean, when you're Kansas City, and that's what you do, and that's what they do, right? It's we're going to build our offense around Patrick Mahomes. We're going to get him as much talent as possible. Hey, Steve Spagnuolo, you can take care of the defensive side of the ball. We know you can do that scheme-wise, and I think that's kind of the route they're going right now.
They are. And another big trade that we saw from the AFC West division as well was Maxx Crosby, the pass rusher from the Raiders, going to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not sure anyone sort of had this one on their radar. The Ravens here, they traded for a first-round pick this season, which is pick 14, and their 2027 first-round pick. From the Raiders' perspective, Marty, home run trade. I mean, it made no sense to keep Maxx Crosby. First of all, he seemed upset with the front office, which, again, do you want to keep a player who's upset? But also, again, like the Chiefs, you're not trying to definitely win a Super Bowl. They're 7 Maxx Crosby's away from winning a Super Bowl. Like they had no need for him as constructed. Get yourself some more guys to help out Mendoza, right? Use the first pick for a quarterback. Use pick 14 on a guard. Like you need pieces. So I loved it for the Raiders' perspective, and for the Ravens, Marty, they're going for it, man. This is un-Ravens like. What do you make of the Ravens' decision here to trade for Maxx Crosby?
I love this trade for the Ravens. They're getting an impact player on defense. I think it fits exactly what they're going to be doing for new head coach Jesse Minter. And I love it from their side. What I don't like from the Raiders side, Geoff, and I get it. I mean, you're starting anew. You're bringing in the quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. But basically, I think that this is basically saying that one of your star players, probably the best player on your team, you frustrated enough and angered enough where he wants out. I just don't like it because it looks like the Raiders mismanaged the situation and were forced to trade one of their best players, probably their best defensive player. And he just brings an energy and just the competitiveness he brings, I think brings a lot to your team. I just didn't like the feel that I felt like the Raiders were forced into making a trade of their best player or one of their best players. And I don't like when that happens. And it usually is something an organization should really look back and say, how could we handle this differently? Because you can't put your star players in a mode where, hey, I want out of here. This organization mistreated me. It's not good for anyone. And that message spreads in the locker room.
It does, but if you have a new coach, maybe that changes, and maybe you just have to start over. And that you have new leaders now. Mendoza hopefully is that guy, right? And so you're starting anew, essentially, Marty. So I get it from that. Look, when this story came out weeks ago, I originally was on your side where I was like, you know what? How do you trade a culture guy like that? How do you trade a guy that sets the tone for your team? But then you look at how far away they are from winning, Marty. I mean, you're what, 3 years away from seriously thinking about, by then, what good has Maxx Crosby done for you, right? That's I think where they're at right now. I know you hate that, but that's the line of thinking
difference maker players, man, impact players. As Jack Bushowski said, there's not an orchard in the backyard. You just don't go back there and pick one off. They're hard to find, and when you get them like that, and let me ask you this, Geoff, how much do you think the Maxx Crosby unhappiness had to do with this contract? I mean, I know they redid it, but it's been jumped.
Probably a lot.
I think most of the times the contract is always, it's never really mentioned, but it's always out there, right?
It's always out there. How often we saw Myles Garrett last offseason? I'm never going to be a Brown again. Here's the most money ever. I'm glad to be a Brown now. Like that solves a lot of problems, right? As we get into, where we're paying players now this week, right? Like a lot of players, I'm not happy. And then they throw them the money and they're happy. Or I'm not happy. Here's a trade, right? And there's a lot of trades. And look, overriding for me on the trade perspective, Marty, is that the free agency classes to me get worse and worse every year. NFL teams and players understand that re-signing where you're at is often the best option for both sides. And impactful players now get signed. They don't reach free agency. And I like that teams are going out and finding the players they need in the trade market. It's different. It's never, when you were a GM, when you drafted me in 08, this was not the NFL. Not the NFL at all.
Yep. Not at all. But you know what now is? Your competition's less, Geoff, because people don't want to trade picks, right? So now if you got a guy you really like, you're really thinning the competition as compared to free agency where everybody's out there offering money, all right? But people don't want to give up draft picks. Coaches don't want to give up draft picks. So I think that you lessen your competition. The field of competition gets smaller, and sometimes you can get guys for very good deals.
And then, of course, it tends to be a little bit cheaper with the contract as well. Maybe a little less signing bonus. And you sometimes absorb a contract. Don't have to give a guy new money, or maybe a little bit of less new money than you would going for agency. So you know what you're getting. You know what you're buying. And we have more trades to talk about. And we have quarterback market to talk about. A bunch of quarterbacks on the move. We'll get signed by teams. Do that next. GM Show presented by Rockies Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle here, Marty. We'll get back to some trades, but some quarterback news always dominates the NFL cycle. And today, the Miami Dolphins announced that they are cutting Tua Tagovailoa, their quarterback, and they're taking a major hit on the cap for this one. It is a $99 million dead cap hit. They're spreading it out because they're doing a post June 1st. I don't know, Marty. I don't know what that means, buddy. I don't understand this mechanism. So you can cut a player now, but then designate it post June 1st. What does this mean? I never understood this.
All it means, Geoff, is when you say post June 1st. So if you cut a player regularly right now, all the prorated signing bonus he's got in future years immediately accelerate to right now because it's before June 1st. If you cut the player with a June 1 designation, he's basically on your roster till June 1. But what happens is he comes off June 1, and then his signing bonus that's prorated in future years, it all goes into 27, and the proration in 26 stays the same. So it's a way of dividing up the cap hit, the dead money.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not a general manager because that sounded like gobbledygook.
It's a hard job, Geoff. Harder than anybody knows.
I feel like all these players are like, I could be a general manager. I could do the picking of the players. I feel okay, but the contract stuff, just no idea whatsoever. That I couldn't do. But of course, I probably would suck at picking the players as well. Some more financial notes here. Tua, if he plays for the minimum this season, because the team can now sign him, right, as be released, and I imagine he will be like Russell Wilson, right, where the Broncos paid majority of his salary and someone paid him $1 million to go play for them this year. The Dolphins will end up paying $147 million for 2 years of Tua extension. Look, we've talked about this deal for years now, right, Marty? Because the option was quite simply this, right? I think everyone's might have seen this coming, right? Like Tua's limited at times as a thrower, his injury history right. They tailored the offense to him and having to throw the ball so quickly that this deal was never going to live up to what it was. But then again, what do the Dolphins do? Just let him walk and get another quarterback? So they sort of were stuck doing this, but it ended up being right where a lot of us thought this might be, Marty. And I'm not surprised it ended up here. And the Dolphins now, it feels like they're going sort of competitive rebuild is how they're labeling it this season. They also traded Micah Fitzpatrick as well. There might be more trades on the move, for them. So made sense for the Dolphins.
It does, and I'll be shocked if Malik Willis isn't a Miami Dolphin by Thursday morning. You can start making these deals official after Wednesday at 4, and I just think that that's where he's going to end up. And I think it's going to enable the Dolphins to make sort of a quicker, smoother change, because I really am. I'm high on Malik Willis. I did him coming out. I saw the buzz around him, and it was for good reason. He needed time. He started as a running back, transferred from Auburn, and he has just grown under Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. And I really liked what I saw in the times he played last year and this year. And I think that with Jeff Hafley coming from Green Bay and having that familiarity with him, I think that's the way the Dolphins go. And I think this kid can be pretty good. It's going to be interesting. I wherever he ends up, I'm going to be very excited to watch him next year.
If you like what we're hearing here on the GM Shuffle, there's even more VSiN Pro, betting splits, power range, sharp analysis, all for $9.99 on your first month. Go to vsin.com/com, check out all these subscription options. Tua's on the market. Kyler Murray's on the market. Cousins on the market. Geno Smith on the market, Marty. I think Kyler Murray's going to Minnesota. I don't know where the other three are going. And I'm fascinated to see where this pans out. Do you have any guesses for some of these veteran quarterback landing spots?
Well, I read Murray. That I don't really see the fit there. I really thought Kirk Cousins would end up in Minnesota, but if Murray goes there, I read something last night, Geoff. I swear it kept me up for an hour. Geno Smith going back to the Jets. I mean, come on. I'm trying to pump the Jets up with the sweat trade and building defense down the middle. Are they really going to do that?
I'm glad I missed that episode. Building the Jets up.
Is Geno Smith really going to go back to the Jets? I mean, I know. Okay. I'm sorry, but I did like what they did last week, and I was starting to get a little excited. And then I read that last night, and I said, "You idiot! People don't change. I mean, why would they do that? I hope they don't do that. I just think they need to start new."
I feel a little vindicated on my Geno Smith takes after the last two seasons, because I think that there's this segment of like football media that is heavy into analytics, which I'm fine with. I like analytics. I like using DVOA, EPA. I like using CPOE. Like I like using some of this stuff, right, Marty? But then I also like using my eyeballs, right? And sometimes my eyeballs don't align with the numbers and the performances. And Geno Smith was a guy that sort of had good EPA. Like he had a good, and I watch him play. I'm like, I don't see this ever in his game. But like the first 8 weeks he was in Seattle, he looked pretty good. And then it just downhill climb from there. He leaves Seattle. They win a Super Bowl immediately, goes to Vegas. They have the number one pick in the draft. I don't think he's very good. I mean, the results are there. I know quarterback wins isn't really a team stat, but I don't know. He left and his team got better and the new team was the worst in the NFL. I mean, has to mean something. And so I don't really I never bought Geno being like anywhere near above average, which some people tried to sell you on for a couple of years now. So the Jets go in that direction. Just go sign someone else, man. Like you're not going to get a quarterback most likely in this draft unless Ty Simpson's there top of round 2. But just Geno makes no sense for them.
He really doesn't. And listen, I love Geno Smith coming out. I remember I was down in Charlotte on the driving range, and there was a Jet fan next to me, and it was like a week after the draft. I kept telling him how good he was going to be. I saw the guy 2 years later. I think he walked right by me, didn't even look at me. But I kept telling him how good Geno Smith was going to be. But I just think that, it's time to move in another direction. And I did like what they did last week. And this is obviously a very key decision. And if I was there, I would probably be pushing another direction.
Some more trades, Marty, that we've seen here in the last couple of days. one that caught my eye was the Bears trading a 5th-round pick in 2027 to New England for center Garrett Bradberry. Dahlman retired out of the blue, and they need a center. And the draft class is med center, and you never know if you're going to get one. And the free agent market's not great at center outside of, Bjelic is good, and he signed with the Chargers. That was a great signing, by the way. I love that for the Chargers. And Tyler Linderbaum appears to be going back to Baltimore, and he's going to be really, really expensive. So they went out and filled the need for a draft pick from next season. I feel like this is a great trade for the Bears.
I do. He's a little undersized, but he's very quick, very athletic, great hand use, and I thought it was a very good trade. And what they did is, you're seeing teams now being very aggressive. Teams don't sit back and wait anymore. They lost Dahlman. They didn't expect him to retire. He surprised them a week ago. Bam, they make the move and go fill the need. And Geoff, I'd be interested to get your take on this because I've said this before. I go all the way back to when 2002, when John Fox was there, Dan Henning came in, and Dan Henning said to me that center was more important than left tackle. And I argued with him. And as the years went on, I have to agree. I think center is the key spot. It's just such a critical spot on an offense. And usually the athleticism and technique is very important there. But would you say it's the most important position on the line?
I'm glad you mentioned this because I've said this before, and I'll kind of try to go in my brain as we talk about this and think about the pairings. It's hard to find an elite quarterback who doesn't have an elite center paired with them. I think about the guys in the NFL now, or the guys over time. I mean, right? Like think about the centers they had over the years, and they're all good. They're all good, Marty. They're all good. I saw it with Ryan Khalil here in Charlotte, and obviously with with Jordan Gross. I mean, they're both excellent players, but what Ryan was able to do for the offense and just helping communicate, right? Because the center, and that's why I think the Bears went with an experienced center, right? He does fit a little bit of the run scheme they want to do, and he played in that sort of style of offense in Minnesota. Is a veteran center to help Caleb Williams, right? There's so much a center does as far as identifications. Now, the best guys like Mahomes, they're doing their own protections, right? They don't really need Creed Humphrey to tell them what they're doing, but it's nice to have a guy you trust in the middle, right? And so it is hugely impactful. Again, it's hard to find good offenses that don't have a good center and honestly a tight end. Like those two seem to be goal. You don't have to have a great left tackle to be a good offense, but you got to have a good center and a tight end. So I'm with you on that. So I love that trade from that perspective. Another monster trade we saw last week was the Bills acquired DJ Moore for a 5th-round pick. And I believe they exchanged 2nd-round selection and gave DJ Moore a new contract-ish, right? But they guaranteed. So as we start hearing about these contracts the next couple of days, guys, it's important to note the structure of them, right? You're going to hear 5 years, right? But really, 2 years guaranteed is the typical contract. Right now, it's maybe part of year 2's guaranteed, all of year 2. Year 3 is the one that's hard to get, right? Like that's the one you're chasing for as a player. The Bills guaranteed DJ Moore's 3rd year, 2026, 27, 28. The Bills have the 2nd highest wide receiver cap hit this year in the NFL. Bengals 1, they have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Cowboys 3 with Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. That's a lot of money for DJ Moore and Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. I like the idea, Marty, but it feels very expensive in Buffalo wide receiver room.
It does, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go draft another one, Geoff. They need wide receivers, and obviously I'm biased, but I thought the DJ Moore trade was a great trade. I think that if you looked at 2 years before last year, he had 90 catches each. I think he had a relationship with Justin Fields. And obviously he did well with Caleb Williams, but it just seemed like he had an off year. Brandon Beane, I think, liked him in the draft when he was at Buffalo coming out. I think the guy is terrific. He's a powerful runner. He's got great hands. He can separate. I thought it was a great acquisition for the Bills.
Look, they need wide receiver help, and the draft is interesting because where they draft, I'm kind of curious who's available there, right? I mean, Concepcion probably available there, maybe Tyson, depending on if Tyson runs well at his pro day, he's going like straight up the draft board, so he might not be there. So I'm kind of curious where the Bears go. And reminder, we're going to cover all this draft stuff for you guys. We're going to have our top rankings. We're going to cover all this. We get to the draft because after this week, it's like draft focus, right? And so this week, guys, is NFL free agency. there's a big change the NFL announced that's going to change, I think, how free agency works. We'll talk about that next here on the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Okay, when you're listening to this right now, the legal tampering period has officially begun. And as we know, Marty, there are 0 contracts talked about ever before legal tampering period begins. And so the shock to everyone when, as soon as 12 p.m. Eastern hits today on Monday, March 9th, that there'll be the tweets flying out. Now, it used to be when the legal tampering period happened, you actually couldn't agree to a deal until the league year started, typically 40 hours later on a Wednesday, right? And now you can actually agree to a deal before the 4 p.m. Wednesday. A deal before 4 p.m. Wednesday during legal tampering period. But yet we're going to see today every NFL insider on social media that have the drafts. They have the drafts saved on their Twitter accounts. Going to hit send here, Marty, in about 30 minutes. But one big change that we're going to see is that the NFL has changed a rule, and the new rule allows players up to 5 one-hour Zoom meetings with potential teams they might sign with. And previously, you could not talk to anyone until Wednesday at 4 p.m., even during the legal tampering period. And so, for example, when I signed my contract with the Giants, my bigger deal, I didn't talk to a soul with the Giants until 4 p.m. on Wednesday. I got a call from the travel secretary that was booking my flight to New York. And the first time I really talked to Tom Coughlin or Pat Flaherty, the offensive line coach, or Jerry Reese was when I got to New York that day, Marty. So I don't know if this will sway players to change their mind on where they're going, but it certainly might.
It might. Few things in play here. Number one is the agent's still in charge, so the agent's going to decide the teams the player talks to. And I would not think an agent's going to put a player on a Zoom call with a team that isn't in the neighborhood of the money that he wants. So I think it's still going to start with the money. This really benefits both sides. As you say, Geoff, for a guy like you, a player comes into a team, signs a big contract, and never really talked to anybody, never saw anybody, never talked to anybody. At least this gives the player a chance to ask some questions and feel good about the coaches that he's coming with. But really, it helps the team probably more. You get to, you can talk to the agent in the past, but now to get a player on a Zoom, you can ask some questions about, just see where he is mentally, ask him where he is physically, see if he wants to come. That is the worst thing about free agency is that, you bring these guys in, you agree to deals verbally, but you don't have a medical on them, so you have to bring them out and give them a physical. And I got a real quick story. In 2018, yeah. We did a deal with a player, gave him a 3-year, $24 million contract, came in. He had an accident when he traveled during in the off period to out of the country to a beach and got in an accident with a golf cart, and we had to fail him on his physical and didn't know anything about it until we brought him in, after the first day that you could bring players in. So I think it gives teams a chance to ask players questions about health and see where they are as far as wanting to come there and mentally. But other than that, it's still just an hour. And really the agent, I think, is still in charge because doesn't he decide who the player's going to talk to, right?
I think he will, but I also think that he probably has to be honest with the player about who wants to talk to him, right? So I think he's got to tell him, like, hey, this team is calling about you, right? He's got to tell them, and then they can choose, the player can choose whether or not, and the agent can certainly influence that, and that's part of it. Look, during my legal tampering period in 2014, it was the same day as my wedding, Marty. So my wedding was the night of the 8th, and that morning, 9 p.m. Pacific time, at my parents' house in Los Angeles, my agent, Derek Gilmore, was fielding calls from teams as the legal tampering period opened. We were having an out-of-town brunch at my parents' house. So my parents' house was full. My wife was getting ready for the wedding at the hotel with her bridesmaids. And about an hour after that, 10 a.m., we sat down, me, my agent, my brother, my dad, my uncle in the living room, and he had like a list of like 10 teams that called, right? And we sort of knew what we wanted for money, and we sort of knew the teams once the list came through about what we wanted for teams. So we did this all the morning of my wedding. We like went over this. Giants were sort of one. The Rams came in pretty hard too. I remember the Raiders were like, no Raiders whatsoever. They were out. They were out, immediately out. And then he's like, okay, go get ready for your wedding. Like, enjoy your day. So we get married at 5:30, whatever it is. We go to the reception afterwards, and the first person I seek out is Derek, the first person at the wedding. And I'm like, hey man, are we good? He's like, yeah, we're good. And I told my wife, and she had no idea what I was talking about, Marty. She just had no idea. She tells people that I was jobless and broke at our wedding. Because to be fair, I did not have a job, and I did not have a ton of money by then in my career. I had not gotten that second contract, but I knew that the Giants were the team, and I knew the money was what we wanted when Derek said, like, we're good now. And the next couple of days, you just wait it out, right? And then at 4 p.m. on that Wednesday, Jeff Fisher called of the Rams to try to get me to come. That was the other team that wanted me. Structure contract was different. I didn't want to play in St. Louis. And my agent told me to not take the call because, again, he felt sort of the same thing. Like I'd be sweating. I feel bad that I left Jeff Fisher. I let it go, but that was what my agent told me to do, and it made sense, right? Because if I talked to Jeff Fisher, how do you say no? You're just like, I'm good. That's why you have the agent, right? That's why I liked having an agent. Was I like that buffer between the front office. Some players don't. They don't have agents, and that's totally fine. But it makes it really awkward, right? To have unless you can do that. I wasn't able to do that at that age, and so then I flew to New York. My physical, Marty, physical quotes, air quotes, was not much of a physical. Do you get? By the way, so when you want a player, like let's say you want me, I was in Kansas City in 2013. Do you get my medical records before I sign, or only after I sign?
No, and that's the problem with this negotiating period, right? Normally, let's say in a trade, you'd have your trainer call the trainer from the team that you're trading with, talk about the player, say, listen, we're about to trade. Can you send me his records? They'll send them to you. Well, in free agency, you don't want to do that because if you're calling the old team and they want them back, first of all, I don't know how much the trainer is going to be allowed to share with you on that in that situation. And two, it's just, that team's got them. That team probably wants them back. So it's just an awkward situation to find out, to get the updated medical information. So that is something that really is unsettling about the process. I think that you mentioned, Geoff, your situation as a player, as a general manager, and as a team. Once you get that verbal agreement, those 2 days between when you can come in and do your physical and sign and get everything straight, those are very stressful days because it's not done until it's done, and you just don't have all the information that you normally would before you made a deal of that consequence.
So when you get to the team, Marty, it's like the best 24 hours. They treat you like a king, man. You stay. So, okay, so we went to Smith & Wollensky's, had a great dinner. Where'd you take the guys in Charlotte? Did you take them to Sullivan's? That was John Fox's spot, Sullivan's.
Sullivan's, Capitol Grill. Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
I remember Foxy told us we couldn't go to Sullivan's. He's like, that's my place. He's like, he told us, he's like, that's my, he told the team, like, that's my steakhouse with Sullivan's. Which is like, I don't even know if we have Sullivan's anymore. I think we still do.
There were a bunch.
It's still there. Yeah, it's still there. He said that's our spot. That's my spot. So they want to dine you. And then, by the way, like, the deal's not done all the time, right? So like, the agent's still talking to the team. They're trying to figure things out. And then, of course, teams are trying to get you to leave, right? They're trying to get you to leave. And if you leave, and obviously the agent's trying to pressure you, Marty, and tell, hey, Jeff's going to leave, man. Jeff's going to leave. He's going to leave if you don't give him the deal. The real question I have for you, though, what percent of deals, Marty, are done in Indianapolis at the Combine?
None.
No deals, none whatsoever.
None
are done at the Combine. They just magically appear. They magically appear in
legal
17
tampering
minutes.
period.
In 17 minutes, they magically appear. All the contracts are done immediately, finalized. So, look, how did you and your staff sort of manage, this time, right? Like, how were the resources spread around? How did you manage trying to figure out the different guys you wanted to get in early?
Well, that's so you have your free agent meetings, a couple weeks earlier, right? Where you bring your pro scouts in, you bring the coaches in. You basically have a board and you go through and then once you start, you have an order of who you want to go after. And it obviously might not be the same position, but it should be by, the best free agent that you want and going down as far as what you think the price range is going to be. So that board is basically done. Then now what you're doing is your general manager, your negotiator, you're having people talk to the agents, trying to get an idea of where they are, and then eventually trying to get a deal done. And that is basically that group kind of thins out when you start negotiating. It's you, the contract negotiator, and the head coach obviously is kept in the loop. But leading up to that, I think it's very important to really be structured as far as how many free agents, how much money you want to spend on a certain guy, how aggressive you want to be. The biggest talk that we always had was if you get involved in the first 3 days, you're overpaying, you're going crazy. Do you have the patience to hold off for the first 4 or 5 days, wait until the market settles, and then use your evaluations to get complementary type players? I just think it's very hard to get an impact player in free agency. I really think it's easier to get one through trade. But that was the discussion was, how aggressive are we going to be and how long do we have to wait? 3 days, 4 days? Because when you come out of the gate in free agency, as you know, Geoff, the numbers are crazy.
They are. And so there are a couple of waves. There's the first wave of free agency. We're going to see guys, again, that get contracts out now. There's a second wave. And I've been a part of all three, by the way. I've been a part of the first wave with the Giants. I was a second wave guy when after my 4 years in Carolina, that fifth year in the NFL, I was a third wave guy in Kansas City. I didn't sign for a month. I was a month. And then eventually at the end of my career, I was like an eighth wave guy eventually. But there's these different waves of free agency. So we're going to see, and we're going to cover this on Thursday, guys. We're going to cover the first wave, probably some rumors of the second wave, so maybe some more trades. Before then, Marty, there's some rumors floating around about certain guys going to certain places. I want to talk those through with you as we get ready for the NFL league year to start here on the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
All right, Marty, we're back on the GM Shuffle. We'll get to those rumors quickly, but first, another rumor, I guess. A.J. Brown is potentially leaving Philadelphia. It seems like he wants out, and Philly is going to oblige him with that request. It appears right now the favorite is New England Patriots, Marty. I guess from both sides of this, if you're Philly, how are you handling this? Obviously, I think they'd rather keep him, but he seems very hell-bent on getting out of Philadelphia. From your Howie Roseman, are you trying to convince him to stay? Like, what's your process during this time?
Yeah, I think obviously you've had tons of conversations with his agent, and then you have brought him in and talked to him. The coaches talked to him, and you really have to decide whether it's salvageable or not. You do not want A.J. Brown to leave if at all possible. But if he's that disgruntled with the way things went, then you really have to do what's best for you and try to get the most you can out of it. I think that you would like to see if you can make it work, but obviously you have a buyer in the Patriots who, Mike Vrabel had him in Tennessee, and listen, Howie Roseman's not going to give him away. I can tell you that. Howie does not give good players away. So he's getting the right compensation for it. And if he doesn't get the right compensation for it, A.J. Brown ain't going anywhere. I can tell you that as sure as I'm sitting here. So it's not going to be a fire sale by any means. I think that if Howie gets the right value for him, he has never been afraid to make a trade, especially with the disgruntled player. And I think that's probably eventually what's going to happen. But I can tell you, if people think they're going to come in and try to steal A.J. Brown, they're not going to do it.
They're not going to do it. Obviously, I think that, I don't know. Sometimes you you can't give in to the player, Marty, but if they are that unhappy and they're going to be a terrible teammate, you sort of have to do it. And New England feels like a spot that A.J. Brown has said he wants to go to in the past. They need a wide receiver. Again, the draft is fine for wide receivers, but at 31, you're not likely to get an impact guy right away. So Brown makes sense.
I mean, this is what I would do, though. I'd sit down with him and say, listen, you were very happy here until last year. Everything, I'd use the Bobby Beathard thing, that when the big picture goes wrong, every little thing doesn't feel right. So I would try to explain that to him, explain how they're going to change things. Obviously, have Coach Sirianni sit down and say how things are going to be different. If they truly want him there, I would make every effort and try to explain to him that, listen, last year was a down year, but it's up to all of us to figure out how to change it. And we know we can do it. We won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I would really try to talk him into staying. But if through those conversations you could tell he is just very disgruntled, then it does no good to keep him in your locker room.
Well, let's get to some rumors now, because it's this time of year where we get some of these stories coming out. The first rumor is a guy we talked about earlier, is Tua going to the Atlanta Falcons. There's some interest there. So you have an injured Michael Penix coming off an injury, and they're going to sign an injured Tua coming off injury, and his injured history to. I don't know, man. Sure. I don't get it. I mean, I guess Stefanski's offense, but that's what he ran in. It's what he ran in Miami. So maybe it makes sense for him to do this and just you have a credible backup if Penix can't play, Marty. I'm just not a fan of Tua being a starter in the NFL. And maybe they're not signing him to be a starter, but it's also, to me, a distraction, right? Like every time Michael Penix plays poorly, or to me, play Tua. I don't know, man. I don't, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. And we never really know where this is coming from. I mean, if you're to his side, you're trying to get his name out there and make people think people are interested. Maybe Atlanta is. I don't really understand it if they did it, Geoff. I'm like you. I think that you're either going to commit to Michael Penix or basically bring in a veteran, I think, that can maybe fill in a year or help kind of tutor him. I just don't see that being a great fit bringing Tua in, but we'll see. It's early. We're going to hear all kinds of rumors for the next 2 days.
We are going to hear a lot of rumors. What's not a rumor is Travis Kelce is going back to Kansas City. Marty, I did not understand anything yesterday about Kelce exploring his options. What options? He's year 14, he's going to leave the Chiefs and go somewhere else. So Kelce now back to, well, of course he wants more money. The Chiefs will give him his money.
What gets you more money? What gets you more money?
Do you really think Brett Veach was threatened by Travis Kelce putting out he might want to leave?
No, but it's worth a shot. It's something that's an angle for his agent to use when he's talking to you, right? I mean, and it's easy to say, oh, he won't leave, but then he leaves and you get killed. So, again, you're one of the guys that say, he won't leave, don't listen to him. And if he leaves, you're in the bathroom while I'm out there up front trying to explain why we lost him.
You're less online than I am, but maybe Kelce needs more money for his mom's bathroom renovation that was reported over this weekend. That she's having a big house renovation. Credible internet accounts put out that Donna Kelce was renovating her home. So maybe the Kelce needs some more money. That $100 million podcast he has and his future on GMA.
These stories just come out like by coincidence, right? Timing.
I don't know, but the Donna Kelce thing, like it was so funny. Like just like think about where we are right now, like in the world. Okay, like I'm not going to get into that, but think about like where we are in the world right now, and then there's like a TMZ report that Donna Kelce is getting her house renovated. It just was like, it just oh man, it just like hit the football world on social media the other day, and so maybe he needs some more money to help his mom pay for that. Another rumor for the Chiefs, and this has been rumored for years now. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but Trent Williams potentially going to be a Kansas City Chief if the Niners and him can't work something out here. They tried to get him 3 years ago now to play left tackle for them. Again with Kelce coming back, with Mahomes appearing to be ready for Week 1, that's the report right now. You got rid of Jawan Taylor, which made sense. And let's say you bring in Trent Williams, move Simmons to right tackle for a season, or I think there's a question about Simmons overall, but more right tackle. That's a move the Chiefs would probably like to make if it can happen.
Yeah, I am assuming that the McDuffie money that they saved on the trade is going to be used for offensive players. Don't you?
Well, the wide receiver room is atrocious. I don't know. Again, like the free agent list is not great. I mean, Mike Evans appears to be hitting free agency, which again, I would, if I were the Chiefs, I'm not going after older guys who were hurt last season, right? Like that's just, Mike was healthy for so many years, and last year just was super beat up. The older you get, you just get more beat up. I mean, are they paying big money for Alec Pierce? Maybe that's the guy they're going for. You're going to pay a lot of money for him, though, right? It's a lot of money for him.
Big chunks.
I know, and they need that. They need a guy who's 6'3". Like that's what they need, right? That's why Tate, to me, at pick 9 is a good Chiefs option. But Trent Williams to Kansas City. The other rumor is Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs. I know you like Tyson Algier potentially going to Kansas City as well, but it does feel like they're going to fix that running back room with something in the next couple of days.
And I love Kenneth Walker. I love Kenneth Walker, but he's not a great receiver, Geoff. And I don't know whether he's the right fit there. See, I think Tyler Algier is both. I think he can catch and be a very good runner. And I loved him coming out. And I do think he's a starter. But I love Kenneth Walker, and I certainly wouldn't be critical if they paid him, and he's going to get money. But I do think that the one thing I would talk about is can he catch? Can he be a good enough receiver for what we want to do at the running back position?
But the Chiefs don't throw the ball to running backs anymore. So one of my big takes schematically from this past season, Marty, in the NFL, is the screen game is mostly dead in the NFL. And there's many reasons for that, right? One of them is you practice less, so you can't to run a screen correctly. It does take a lot of practice time. I know people think you just throw the ball to running back and they run in the offensive lineman and you get out, but there's a lot of timing involved with it, and you have to practice screens to do them well. I was with Andy Reid, man. He's the screen master. Ain't no one better in NFL history running screens. You don't have time to practice anymore. You don't practice screens anymore. And then the one that I think is under the radar reason why is on a screen, the best way to block in space if you're an offensive lineman was throwing your body in front of a defender. Can't cut in space anymore, Marty. And so now we got to stand up. And it's hard to block little guys if you can't throw your body at them. And so the screen game being out, I'm not sure the Chiefs are concerned about that. But also, if you sign Kenneth Walker, that's an analogy. Are you committing to running the football now? Are you changing your offense? Andy Reid hasn't done that for years now. So I don't know if they're going to spend it running back, but I feel like they have to because that room is so bad.
Yeah, and when they do run the ball, and that's when they're at their best, right? I mean, you've been saying that when they run the ball, that's one of the keys to their offense, I think.
I think it has to be one of the keys to their offense. So lastly here, I want to end with a story from a couple days ago that I never got to talk to you about. Maybe you covered this with Mark, but I'm curious about your opinion on Daniel Jones getting the transition tag. I don't get it from a Colts perspective. There is a story out today that Daniel Jones won $50 million a year, but you're basically signing up for like a 1-year contract. What is that? How does that get the Colts any closer to like finding their quarterback of the future? To have Daniel Jones there for a year, maybe lose him. I don't think anyone's going to sign him. So just you got him for cheaper for one season than a franchise tag. I don't get it. I just don't get the Colts plan at quarterback. They seem to never have one.
Well, I kind of do get it. I like this move. Two things. One is he's coming off a major knee injury, right? So getting him for a 1-year deal isn't bad. You can see if he's going to be the same guy you thought he was or not. And two, if he goes out and gets an offer for somebody else, then you have the ability to match that offer. Now, if you don't match it and he signs, you don't get a compensatory pick because you transition him. So that's one of the downsides. But I think what they're looking at is one, hey, we're not going to be unhappy having him for 1 year at a good price because it will give us an answer of how he comes back. And then two, if somebody does give him an offer, they have a right of first refusal. So I kind of understand the move.
This is the second transition tag using a quarterback in like 40 years, right? It's just not something that you guys use very often.
Transition tags don't get used much for anybody, really.
Yeah, so
because you don't like the fact that a team could put something in that maybe makes the deal, skews the deal to their favor, and you can't match it. So.
But no more poison pills in any of these transition tag type contracts. That was the Steve Hutchinson rule, because there was a poison pill put in there, and I think that was the last one that I think his Twitter handle on social media is Poison Pill 76. So good for the Hall of Famer there. We will be back on Thursday, guys, with every NFL free agency note, every NFL trade. Maybe we'll grade them for you guys. We'll have a recap for you guys. Talk to you guys on Thursday. Take care, everyone.